Welcome to the Big O Money Show. Bill Altman here, live from the lakes. Happy 4th of July, everybody. We have Tony Shore, co-host. It's been a couple weeks since I've been with everybody here. Andrew was holding down the fort for a couple weeks. Fantastic. Does a great job, full of information, wealth of knowledge. He is. Tony, welcome. Thanks for being with me.
Oh, Bill, great to have you back on your own show. I mean, we definitely missed you, Bill. And missed your insight. Andrew is a wealth of information. What I like about Andrew is he's so prepared and knowledgeable. And, it's a lot of information that he crams in, but he's great. And he's getting better and better at the radio show. We love Andrew. He's so passionate about what he does and his clients, and that really comes through.
He really is too. He does a great job, and everybody in our office, I think, shares that same philosophy as for being passionate for what they do.
Yes.
Whether it's Bill and Brenda on both on the retirement and the Medicare side. Those go hand in hand, obviously. And Julie on tax, she heads up that side. And then Jake and Andrew and myself on investment. And it is a lot of fun. There's a lot of moving parts. We've talked about this. We were talking about this pre-show a little bit. I was talking to a couple actually a little bit earlier this week, and they're coming aboard. They lost their father, and the father it took the father a couple times to graduate high school actually, and he was told that by teachers that he would never amount to anything. But this guy was an extremely hard worker and just cranked it out. And he created a large company. I'm not going to say what company this is, but created a large company in multiple locations from California to Denver to Tennessee and all around. And he was so passionate about his own industry. And so being able to help people like that, they had everything in order. Excuse me, a really good job of estate planning of what they were doing with their own lives, that making sure that the kids they weren't burdened by anything. He lost his wife a number of years ago, and this guy was just an honorary man, but fantastic. And to make it, just goes to show you, hard work. That's really the crux, right? That does it for us.
It's the key.
And, that's the key. And no matter what or who. You can be the smartest person in the world and go to the best colleges and do all that kind of great stuff. But if you don't have that work ethic, well, it's probably just not going to happen. Heck, look at me. Jeez, if you turn back and you talk to your friends from high school and they're like, what? Who are you?
You own your own successful company.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And which is great. And I think a big part of it is surrounding myself around people who are, I'm going to say they're smarter than me, right? True professionals. We have Julie, CPA, 33 years. And, you have Andrew, who's so passionate, and young, and these guys are tech savvy and all that. And it seems like the older we get, the more I feel like my parents. Hey, can you fix my iPhone?
Right.
I can't get this app to load. The other day I couldn't get my Apple Pay. I just learned to click not too long ago, like a year ago. And here the other day I'm trying to click and it's not clicking. I got frustrated. I just pulled out the old credit card and did the swiper. And she says, "You don't swipe anymore, sir. You have to insert." And, but it's funny because you surround yourself by all these other people, these young guys and older and very experienced too, other people, which is so important. And our clients can rest assured that they're surrounded by that same company. We want to make you better. That's really key. So when we go into certain things of asking you about your estate planning, your income planning, your income goals, like this family that we were talking to, who is bringing all their assets over to us from the dad, and this family. We talk about getting to that end result, right? The end result being retirement for a lot of our clients. Now, end result could also be, the other side as we get lifted up, right, to heaven. Hopefully, it could be that piece. But when we really start talking, we start talking about that retirement side. Yeah. If indeed you are not retired yet, or even if you are, what are your income goals, your plans? How much do you want to hit the bank after taxes? All those type of things. And then we back in. We find out risk tolerance. Tony and Sarah, you guys, you're in your what are you, in your 50s?
Yeah, I'm now 60, but Sarah's in her 50s. Yeah.
I apologize. So with 60 years old, you look a lot younger than that, Tony. I was thinking you were 40, but with 60 years old, you ask, yourself and Sarah, where do you want to be? And you start with that plan of, hey, I want $10,000 a month in retirement, or whatever your number is, right? And then we back into how to get there. And I ask you, well, how do you feel about market? How do you feel about market risk? When we design the portfolios around you and not just around a grab bag. So often I see a grab bag, and I'm not going to name any companies. We're not going to put people under the bus, but so often we get this portfolio statement in from a company that's shopping around, and they're looking for us, right? Or a couple, or a client, a prospect.
Sure.
They're coming in and saying, hey, can you analyze this? And we look at it, and it's like, what the heck is this? There's overlap everywhere. You own, 23 different mutual funds, and they all own like the same stocks, and it's heavy here and heavy there. What's going on? Why is this happening? And I don't know why it's happening. I can make guesses, but that doesn't matter. Who cares? And one time, and I don't know if we talked about this or not, but there is one company, I think we did a couple weeks ago. There's one company out there. A guy brought his statements in, and large accounts, about 5 million or so, right in that neighborhood, and private wealth management. And they said, and some of this money was inherited and all that kind of stuff, but the very hardworking people, not just trust funders or anything. And the guy says, you know what? My guy doesn't even know what I do for a living.
What?
Yeah. And I'm like, first of all, how do you get through? How do you get through suitability? How do you get through compliance?
How do you know what's in his best interest if you don't even know that much?
And this is we're talking about a large, massive company. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, what is going on? Who are you people? Because, it was kind of like when we start off, it's like the fact and feeling, go back to, Chairman Lucius and talk about, the fact and feeling, right? How do you feel about the market? How do you feel about, retiring? How do you feel about your kids? What are your hobbies? Do you like your job? What have you done? How's your health? Right?
Yeah.
How are your
You have to know these things to have a proper financial plan in place, right?
Well, and then a relationship, right? You get to understand the people, because Tony and Sarah are different than Bill and Danielle, and we're different than Bill Kaiser and Mindy and Andrew and Andrea, and everybody's different, right? Everybody has their piece. But at the end of the day, I think we all want security for the most part. I shouldn't say all. Let's not put an absolute on that. But we do want security, and we want to know. And so we start backing into it, and then we start talking about, just like this gentleman that passed here recently, and everything was all set up, and all the estate planning was done. Well, it makes it easy for the family. There is a lot of work to do, even when it's set up properly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When everything is set up and it's clean, it's still a lot of work.
Yeah.
But when you have to start opening probate and formal probate and informal probate, what's the difference? A will, do you have your will? Do you have your signed copy of your will? I mean, not the scanned in copy.
Right.
About the one that with wet ink. That's the difference between formal probate and informal probate, or one of the differences. I'm not a lawyer, but I can just tell you, our attorney will tell us that. And so we want to make sure that all of those things are done, because you just unfortunately don't get a second chance while you're living. It's those powers of attorney, the living wills, and all that. And once you get sick or a car accident or something happens and you need somebody to speak on your behalf and you're incapacitated, guess what? Too late.
Yeah.
And so what do you do? You go and open the conservatorship or guardianship. You go to the courts, let the judge kind of manage and appoint somebody, and people fight about it, and they can contest the will, and oh my gosh, all this craziness going on. Why don't we just button it up? Why don't we put beneficiaries on things? Why don't we get it to a point where you don't have to and your kids don't have to worry about that stuff?
Yeah.
I just don't freaking get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
but people keep
it done?
Yeah, people put it off, and what they're doing is hurting their own families. And it's really about, do you care about your family, and you want to keep family harmony, have those, like you said, beneficiary designations, wills, and trusts can help here. And that's what's great about you guys. Right. You guys actually have your own estate planning attorneys, and you have an attorney on staff, and you work with a lot of different people there and have a great team to help people, even in all areas, the wealth management, investments, insurance,
and the tax,
Medicare,
right.
tax.
And we get to, yeah, and that's the whole thing. This person earlier in the week asked me about if they would recommend that their tax. They have a tax person they work with, and everything's been fine.
Sure.
Do they recommend that they work with our tax people? They're bringing their assets over to us, and I said, well, that's up to you. I will just let you know it's easier on our side, and probably easier and more beneficial for you, because if it comes down to a Roth conversion at the end of the year, or you're taking an excess distribution, you're helping one of the kids out, you're buying a new car, taking a vacation, do we take it out of a qualified account or a non-qualified account? Do we touch the Roth yet, or do we wait? Where's your tax bracket at? Where's IRMA at, right? IRMA, income-related Medicare adjustments. Yeah. How close are you teetering on that line, $218,000 or so as a married couple, or $109, right in that neighborhood, something for a single? Yeah. How do you teeter that piece? Do we go over and then you have a 2-year look back because you took an excess distribution that we could have taken out of an account that wasn't taxed?
Yeah, you can make expensive mistakes.
No,
if you silo it. And what you're talking about is people silo things. They've got a CPA over here working in a silo doing tax preparation, looking back at last year, maybe ahead 12 months, if that. And then you have in a silo, you have a stockbroker, your stocks. And then over here in a silo, you have a retirement account. And here in a silo, you have, and everything's siloed. And that's the wrong way to do it. That's great for corn and soybeans. You got to keep those separate, but that's terrible for these things. It
makes it difficult. And then, the other people don't, we'll talk to the other tax people. We'll talk to the other people that are involved, the other professionals. And sometimes that's necessary because it's been a long-term relationship or whatever the situation is, right? And they understand that there's multiple businesses involved or whatever the case is. And we can talk to those people, but how often do you really think that works? They're like, oh, yeah, I'll call the CPA. And I call the CPA, hey, Bill Altman here. I'm calling about, Todd. And oh, yeah, Todd gave me permission to talk to you. Sounds good. How well do you think the conversation between me and that third party actually goes? I mean, it's fine, but it's kind of like just a disjointed. It's not connected, right? When everything's in-house, it's connected. And then when I tell people, like you've heard probably Rosie on KFAB, right? And hopefully there's a bunch of people right now listening on KFAB on this, wonderful Sunday morning, right after the 4th of July. So maybe not, but you can always go to our website, bigomoney.com, or you can go to, the Spotifys and the iHearts and all that other kind of jazz, right?
Yep.
You hear Rosie talking on the radio, you just call Bill. Now, when we say Bill, we're talking about Premier, right?
Yep.
But you just call Bill, call me, and we're going to figure out what's going on, and so if something happens or you get sick or someone breaks their leg or you got to take an excess distribution or whatever it is, you just call Bill, call the office, and everybody works together.
Yeah.
You pull it up. It's not like, oh, well, Bill's not here and I can't help you. No, that's not true. That's not how we do things in the office. Everybody has a frequency. If Andrew's not there, somebody else can help. If Jake's not there, somebody else can help. Everybody has specialties,
sure,
of course, right? But we can certainly help make sure that you're on the right path. And that's really key. So instead of calling the attorney first, and nothing wrong with that. We have great attorneys. I have really great relationship. I think they're very, very important people, no doubt, especially when it comes to estate planning and solving all kinds of other problems. Same with CPAs. How good does it feel to get your tax stuff in order? For so long, I can remember, so many moving parts going on. The kids were little and all kinds of craziness. And then and all of a sudden, April 15th comes along and it's like, oh, geez, I have to write a check. I could have done better planning. What if that planning was already done and that stress isn't there? You've done it. You're going to have to pay it. And it's not going away. Unless you're some illegal drug dealer or something, I don't know, taking cash under the table or whatever you're doing, right? Running an orphan or a daycare in Minnesota. I don't know.
Oh.
But regardless, there's all kinds of that craziness going on. Let's button it up and let's get it taken care of. Markets. I mean, geez, you got S&P 500 up. 9.5, 10% or so for the year. You get the Dow up almost 9% for the year. I mean, that's a great run rate, So when I say
It's
run
huge.
rate, we're 6 months into the year. And so if you just multiply that times 2, because we're going to go to December, that would be like a run rate per se. Now, now that's not necessarily going to happen. Okay. But when I'm thinking about it, it's like, we're already up 9%. If it just kept going as is, holy smokes. Now, will that happen? Probably not. It could be a lot higher. It could be a lot lower. It probably won't settle in exactly there, of course. But what we do know is we're up 9% for the year. A pretty darn good year, right? So do people pull back the reins a little bit? Dow's at 52,000, almost 53,000. You pull the reins back a hair and just say, hey, we're good with that 9, or do you just keep going? Depends on your situation.
Yeah.
And that's it, right?
Yeah.
Where are you at towards retirement? Or do you have so much money that the income goal is not a big deal? We're only going to touch 1% of the account, so it's not a big deal, right? Or is it the other side where, it's going to be tight. We want this 10,000 a month, but we're going to be, hitting that 4% withdrawal mark or whatever, and we're just not comfortable with doing it anymore. Let's pull the reins back a little bit. Let's set up some guaranteed income. You look at Social Security, and you, Tony, I've been one that says, hey, I don't think they're going to cut Social Security by 22% or whatever number they're talking about, 22, 25. I've heard different things. 22 is the most recent number I heard this last week. But what if they do? So I think they're going to rob Peter, pay Paul, because if they allow Social Security to get cut that much, so many people live paycheck to paycheck on Social Security that they're going to fall behind. They're going to go into bankruptcy, or they're going to go into needing Medicaid, and the government's going to kick in anyway. So what do? You're going to raise taxes. You're going to find the money somewhere. But some people are on the other side and say, hey, no, I think they're going to cut it by that 22%. There are experts out there that are talking about this. Now, your Social Security statements have been saying this. I mean, heck, we can go back, Tony. I don't know. I've probably seen for at least 15 years plus, maybe 20 years on Social Security statements that say, hey, the trust fund will be broke by 2034. It was like 2037, then 2035. And then, now it's all
now
broke.
We're 32. Now we're down to the fourth quarter of 2032, they say.
Right. And it's like, okay, so obviously it's in trouble, so what do we do there? How about you set yourself, if you are worried about that, let's set yourself up another pension. Let's cover the other 22%. Right. If your Social Security is $4,000 a month, and they're going to cut it down to 3,000, let's find another G somewhere. Let's find $1,000, from other accounts. Let's set it aside. We're going to set X amount of dollars aside to create that guaranteed pension for you, which is Social Security.
Yeah.
Perfect. So if I can, no pun intended, shore it up, if I can shore it up, I'm like Dr. Shore over here. If we can do that, then we've solved that issue. So let's quit stressing about it and let's just solve the problem.
Right.
Come on, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we should do?
That is exactly right. I mean, and I hope they find ways to fix it, but if they don't, have a plan in place. You know what I mean? We hope for the best, plan for the worst is what
that's right. Yeah. And then that's just extra money that you have. And that's great. Because what happens with, I'm going to use Tony and Sarah because it's easy. So you have Tony and Sarah, and Tony passes away first, and the smaller Social Security drops out. How are we going to figure that piece out? Again, that goes back to that guaranteed pension. We flip on that trigger, that income trigger, and there you have guaranteed income. What's wrong with that? Who doesn't like guaranteed income? Who in the world doesn't like guaranteed income?
Yeah, we all love the mailbox money. We all love the mailbox money.
If you're listening out there and you have guaranteed income and you don't like it, you are welcome to cut Tony and I a check.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, that's the guaranteed income, the mailbox money. That's what you look for. How much in Social Security am I going to get in my each month, and what other guaranteed income do I have? And that's why it's great to have guaranteed income. People who have points on movies, or have written songs, or own publishing, or have done a book. they just constantly get royalty checks because that exists. And that's great for guaranteed income. And there are ways to create that as well. And you can help the average person out there create that guaranteed income.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing. You don't have to be some rich trust funder or this highly successful, like crazy. No, this is for everybody out there.
Yeah.
Everybody listening should have some type of estate plan. They're not just for the rich. Everybody listening should have some type of income plan for retirement. They should know what their Medicare is doing if it works for them. My mom's on a different plan than my dad because she's had rheumatoid arthritis since she's been 16 years old and she's 75 or hope Marge isn't listening. 74 will be 74.
Whoops.
I didn't like that one.
Sorry, Mom.
But one of those type of things, right? And so everybody listening should have some type of plan in place. They should know where things are so they can just chill and ride off into the sunset. You're probably noticing a little bit different background. We are celebrating, Danielle and I are celebrating our anniversary. We also celebrated Braden's 21st birthday. My oldest, who goes to Auburn, is going to be a senior at Auburn this year. So we have, we had a lot of family. We had a lot of great time. And that's important to me. And their friends came up and lifelong friends that they've had, so you have Grace, who's 17, Michaela, who's 18, Braden, who just turned 21 on June 30th this past week here. And I joke because, he's, goes to Auburn University. And I think you can go to any university in the world and find trouble. Okay.
Now, for sure.
Great kid. But what I told him is, this whole 21 crap, I'm not buying it one bit. You've been around for a few years, buddy. And so this isn't we're not going out and like just tying one on, right? We're gonna wake up the next day feeling pretty good. And they get it. It's fun because you get everybody like that together and you cook and you break bread.
Nice.
And I let them know what's going on with us in our businesses if something were to happen. And I have contingency plans in place. If something were to happen to me, someone gets to step in real quick and make sure things are running very smooth. That happens to Danielle and I. Just the kids know it's funny. Grace is like, who said it? Michaela. Michaela was, I want nothing else except for the boat. I'm like, that's not a smart idea.
Yeah. Kids.
So it's just kind of funny stuff.
Kids like, I want the boat.
you get their mind thinking about things at early age, and then they can push that through to their own benefit down the road and make sure that they're doing their stuff and handling their business like they're supposed to handle. We are starting to run out of time. But again, markets are high, right? We got 7,500 on S&P, roughly got 53,000 on Dow. Things are moving, shaking. That's a good thing, right? What's NASDAQ up? NASDAQ's up 5,000. 2,800 points year to date.
Yeah.
Everything is just moving, which is fantastic. If you're looking to kind of get some of that off the table and you're getting closer to retirement and you're like, hey, I still want to participate in markets, but how do I participate in markets? Well, I can tell you exactly how you can. And that's through some of our buffered indexes. And I'm just kind of scrolling through my thing real quick here.
Sure.
There we go. Buffered index portfolios. So we have UBS, a major bank, a participation rate at 100%, S&P and Jones. You can make up to 14.2%, 100% principal protection, unless UBS goes broke. Okay, talking a large bank, if UBS goes broke, I would probably watch your market money. Okay, because that's a big bank.
That's not going to happen.
Barclays, cap of 36.2% over 36 months, buffered at 30%, which is fantastic. Morgan Stanley, another one, participation rate, 203.4% cap, uncapped participation rates. And dual directionals, JP Morgan Chase. We have all these great products that allow you to contribute and participate in the market, but taking some of that risk off the table. And that's what we want to really help you do and get everything shored up for and as we get through our 250th year in the United States and as we continue to move forward for another 250, we want to help you do that. Give us a call, 402 557-6730. Again, right here in Omaha, 402-557-6730. And you can always go to bigomoney.com.
All right. Thanks, Bill. And a happy 4th of July weekend to everybody out there listening. Great show today. Thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of the Big O Money Show with Bill Altman.